Hi, I'm Greg Ulan with Reynolds, and this is Connected. Today's an in-person episode. I'm really excited. I get to sit down with Nikhil Kalani. I've known Nikhil for quite a long time. He's our Chief Information Security Officer here at Reynolds. He also serves as our Vice President of Information Security. And on top of that, Nikhil's responsible for Proton Dealership, IT, and Cybersecurity. So lots of experience in the room with me today. And Nikhil, thanks so much for sitting down and talking.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Yep, absolutely. So Nikhil, just recently you spoke at the Ohio Secretary of State Cybersecurity Conference, and there were a lot of topics that came up, and I thought it'd be a good idea for us to sit down and just share some of the most recent things that you're seeing in the cybersecurity space, specifically in the dealership world, but also in general. And I thought maybe we could start with the impact that artificial intelligence is having. I mean, I'm in a lot of conversations around artificial intelligence, and I swear every time I get asked, what should we look out for? And my default is always, I mean, a big thing to look out for is how AI is being used in cybersecurity. So I thought maybe we could start there, and you could share kind of anything that's top of mind for you.
Sure. AI is being used by both the good guys and the bad guys, right? It's just an arms race of who's going to win that one. On the cybersecurity front, the primary topic I'd be concerned about if I were a dealer is about fraud, right? Financial fraud, funds transfer fraud. That's not a new kind of fraud. It's been around for a long time, but AI is making it easier, faster, cheaper for the bad guys. Their ability to impersonate the good guys is so much better now than it was just a short while ago. Mm-hmm. So you might recall, Greg, in 2024, there was a $25 million loss by a company in Hong Kong. This was January 2024. And the way that scam worked was the finance employee was on a video call with the CFO, a couple of other team members. It all looked really good. Mm-hmm. And the finance employee had the right instinct. But seeing the team on a live call, they went through with the transfer requested. That was more than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Since then, the ability to deepfake has gotten so much better, it's no longer a headline.
Yeah.
That type of fraud is now a category, not a headline.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to make a real specific point on that, because you dove right into fraud, and it's interesting because a lot of times people think of cybersecurity, right? And they think of hardware, and they think of technology, and they think about networks and infrastructures, and what you described was quite literally an impersonation, right? And fraud as a category is, maybe give me your perspective, but it's big business for criminals. I mean, that portion, it's not about brute force attacking, trying to get into a network.
It's massive business because it's fast, it's relatively easy and cheap for them to do. So the FBI recently reported about $21 billion in fraud on Americans using cyber techniques. Mm-hmm. Specifically, for the first time now in their April report, they reported AI-based fraud as about $900 million. Wow. And that's just a part of the overall cybercrime pool of numbers that they have. Mm-hmm. So it is significant, it's ramping up, and we should just expect more of it.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe if you don't mind then, give some other examples, right? Some stories about how things have happened. So I'll share one. A good friend of mine, he has a law firm. He's an attorney, and he had a client that he was representing. And long story short, basically he got an email, and that email basically updated the bank account information that a funds transfer was supposed to go to. He authorized it, and $800,000 was gone. And luckily he had cyber insurance, and law enforcement got involved, and everything worked out okay. But boy, that's a stressful, I mean, not day, that was a stressful month and a half, right? Yes. Trying to work through all that.
Yes.
And those little things, and you're in a hurry, and you click yes, or authorize or send, and then everything changes, right? Yes. In one click. So that was just a tangible example that somebody close to me experienced, and just talking to him about it, man, it was terrifying.
And that's a big number, 800,000, yeah. Right? Now, unfortunately, it's all too common. The average for these losses is $25,000 per incident, right? 25,000 in one email, gone like that, right? So faking an invoice is very common. Mm-hmm. The video part of it now, like I said, very common for approvals. There's always, the common theme in these is a sense of urgency.
Yep.
Often it's keep it confidential, right? We can't talk about this. You may recall the Ferrari story. where there was an executive who received a call from the CEO, and they were asked to make this confidential funds transfer. In that situation, the executive was thinking on their feet. And although the voice sounded perfect, the inflection was perfect, something about it didn't quite feel just right. So the executive asked the CEO, hey, you lent me this book to read last week. What's the name of the book? So there's an interesting way, a very low-tech way of defeating high-tech crime. Right? Now, I said high-tech crime, but it's just really easily accessible. So there's open source projects, freely downloadable. They'll run on a gaming PC for real-time video conversion. So you can be on a Teams call, and in about 50 milliseconds, which people will not perceive on a video call, the attacker's face and voice are transformed, so they can literally be having an interaction with a dealership team member, but all of that's getting transformed in real time and getting published as whoever they're impersonating. And in a small little Teams video or Zoom video, you probably won't pick it up. So relying on the human being to detect is just not a good strategy. We've got to have some process-related strategies. The unexpected question, right? The secret question, secret passphrase, those kinds of things, spycraft, that is very helpful.
So how do you, I guess, what's the most effective way to communicate that to whether it's your entire team or, kind of your executive level inner circle team that may be exposed to this type of stuff? I mean, is this something that you just discuss on an ongoing basis and say, hey, this is something that we're going to implement, in the store, implement as part of our business if we're doing talking about any sort of financial transaction, we're going to have, we're going to implement a process where we have something like, whether it's a password or whatever it is. Like, is it that simple?
I think a major part of this needs to be the communication of the culture, where going slowly, going carefully, verifying is rewarded, not punished for being slower, right? Everybody's busy, but we've got to have the people who handle the money take the time that's needed to get this right. So as part of that communication, not just the teaching, but truly the leaders establishing the culture of it's okay to verify. It's okay to challenge me, right? Challenge the CEO, challenge the CFO, so that it builds the verification in with confidence. Yeah.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you talked about video, you gave the story about voice. I think we've all probably heard the stories. I just shared one about email, right? And not even needing to use voice or video. So there's a lot of ways that fraud can happen, and it's all kind of financially driven.
Yes.
So let's also talk, Nikhil, if you don't mind, about some of these other types of attacks that are becoming more and more common. I've heard you talk about adversary in the middle, and when I first heard about it, it didn't make complete sense in my head, but hearing you describe it, it's definitely made sense now. So I guess talk about that for anybody that hasn't heard that term. It's also a pretty powerful one.
Sure. This is extremely common, actually. Unfortunately, it's almost normal at this point, right? We expect it. So the way the scam works, it has different degrees of sophistication. So I'll play one out where employee gets a message warranting, asking for some action to be taken. It might be funds transfer, or probably initially more innocuous because the attacker simply wants access to their email. So, hey, log into this to see this attachment. Now, depending on how detailed the attacker wants to get, how detailed the employee is in their training, they might have, you can call me to verify, right? I'll call you on your phone, verify. But the voice is faked in the verification. I'm the IT guy, so-and-so. They got the name of LinkedIn. So they're able to impersonate the employee very well and maybe trick the associate, the employee, into thinking they're working with the real IT department of a company. That's one way to do this. But typically, to see this attachment, log into Microsoft Office.
Sure.
When you're logging in, you may not be logging to the actual Microsoft Office. You've got a fake page. You give it your credentials. The fake page transfers it to the actual Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office might have an MFA challenge back. All they do is replay that challenge back to the employee. and the employee enters the MFA value. It goes into the middle, the proxy website, and it's replayed back to Microsoft. They accept. They issue what is called as a token. This is where it's a little technical and simplified to just a token. It's an entry ticket into the Microsoft Office world. They give it to the man in the middle website or the proxy website. So they have a copy. They'll pass it on to the original employee. The employee was none the wiser. They actually got logged in to Microsoft Office, not realizing all that time there was somebody in the middle taking all of this. And even MFA could not save them in this situation. Now, there are types of MFA that could save them. Okay. MFA is not created equal, right? There's different kinds of MFA. And one in particular I'll talk about is called phishing-resistant MFA.
Okay.
There's several kinds of phishing-resistant MFA, but the concept is the same. It does not rely on just a code or an SMS text. It relies on something on the device that is registered with the website we're trying to log into. So whether it's a bank or it's Microsoft Office, you might require the exact laptop or the PC that you first used to register with them, because all the codes are stored on that machine.
Okay.
In effect, the machine is a factor in the multi-factor authentication. It can be mobile, so you can have a little USB key that you put on your key ring, so it can go with you from computer to computer. But still, it's a piece of hardware that you must have, and all the codes are on that hardware to conduct the login. Right? So it cannot be stolen through this proxy or attacker in the middle tool. So that's a very good way. It's worth the investment. It's in some cases free. For example, Windows Hello for Business, or just even a passkey in general, relying on a PIN for you to unlock it. Those kinds of things, they live on the hardware. But if you want something more mobile, $50 YubiKey, that gets you there.
Interesting. No, that's I mean, it's always changing, right? So there's always something new. No, that's a very, very interesting kind of type of attack, and one to be on the lookout for. All right, so I also want to talk with you, Nikhil, about those types of attacks that still happen pretty regularly, where somebody's gaining access to the network, right? And they're going to either try to steal data or do something harmful to the business. Still very common. So let's talk a little bit about those two. You talked about fraud a lot, which I think is something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest with you. And so then when we go to maybe what a lot of people consider traditional cybersecurity measures, what are we seeing there? What are you and your team seeing there in today's world?
So in the context of a traditional cyber attack, ransomware type of attack, what we are seeing is that the speed of the attack is accelerating massively.
Okay.
Once upon a time, it used to be 30 days of what is called as dwell time. The time it takes for the attacker to have some initial access to your network and then actually implement their objectives. 30 days used to be a couple of years ago. Then it went to 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. 1 week might be luxurious now.
Sure.
Right? I read about some attacks that are executed within hours. Sometimes, if the attack is small and extremely targeted, it can be minutes. Right? Fully automated, AI-driven minutes. But I'll say a good number to design for if you're managing a large network. At least plan for the attack being executed within a few hours from start to finish. Right? At that point, when you're talking about hours, and those hours might begin at 3 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Right? Human speed is not reliable for detection and remediation. You've got to have the right kinds of tools that can intervene in seconds. Because giving an attacker 5 minutes of access today might be way too much. Right? Once upon a time, 5 minutes was not a big number in this context. Today, it is a big number.
So it sounds like speed is really the most important factor. So, and I want to also think about this. I've been thinking about it a decent amount lately, and we talked about it a little bit before. This concept of kind of proactive security, right? Hardening your cybersecurity position, and reactive defense, right? So as something's happening, how do you defend against it? How do you make it stop? And let's continue down this defense path, right? This reactive path, knowing that 5 minutes might be too long. That's a scary thought, especially if it is at 3 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yes. So this becomes really about robot wars, right?
Sure.
The attackers are using automation to conduct the attack. The only viable defense is automated defense at that speed.
Sure.
Right? So it comes down to the engineering of the tools. Your security architecture has to have the sophisticated mechanisms built into it to see the signals in real time, understand what's happening, and react all within seconds, not minutes ideally. So it's an engineering function, and it's raised the bar, right? So a cyber team that doesn't have that level of sophistication is going to struggle against the modern attacks. I want to point something out. We talk a lot about network attacks, but attacks can be categorized in a few different ways. Endpoint, or the PC, the laptop, the very machine being attacked.
Yeah.
That's a piece of it. Identity, the accounts being used, is a huge piece of it.
Yeah.
And we still, at least when I'm working with dealers, we don't often talk about identity as much. The focus is still network. But I want to get it more granular. Network is maybe the big container being attacked. But within the network, it's endpoints, it's identity, it's email accounts. Those finer grains, those have to be controlled very tightly.
Sure.
So defense ends up focusing on those finer levels.
Well, and when you think about accounts, just to put a fine point on it, it can be as simple as a Gmail address, right, that logs you into all of your Google ecosystem. If you're using, the G Suite to run your business, and somebody gets a login, everything's there, right? So that identity, it could be a Gmail address. That identity could be your login. You used the Microsoft Office example earlier, right? If you're using Microsoft Office to run a large portion of your business, if somebody gets that login information, they can go across all these different tools. So, when you talk about identity, just to simplify it, that's what we're talking about.
Yes, correct.
It's a username and password.
It is impersonation of the human being using their login credentials, right? And nowadays, the credential is used quite broadly, like you said, across the Office suite potentially. And if the individual is reusing passwords, that makes it so much worse. They broaden their attack surface versus having tightly controlled passwords. So one of the key controls is a password manager, right? At this point, any of us might have over 100 passwords, I think, right? How can you possibly, in your brain, store unique passwords? You really cannot.
Sure.
So password manager should be a required piece of control given to our employees. And they don't cost very much. And $3 gets you a pretty nice password manager.
Yeah. So talk about the difference between password manager in the context that you're using versus I have all my passwords saved in my iPhone, or I have all my passwords saved in Google Chrome.
If the budget is $0, the browser password manager is better than not having one.
Okay.
Right? And you can attack the system. You can attack the browser. It is possible to steal those. And it's in the workflow, whereas a dedicated password manager, being just a separate piece, has a different attack surface. It's a little more complex to attack versus just built into the browser. Like we talk about patching our browsers all the time, right? Browsers have vulnerabilities.
Sure.
Google Chrome, Firefox, Edge are constantly requiring updates. So a tool on the side that's purpose-built, I would choose that. But if we aren't going to go that route, the browser and its password manager is still better than simply not having one.
Sure. Okay. No, and that's good. And the way these work, right? It's a separate, basically, application that lives on the PC. You have a master password or passphrase or something complex to unlock the password manager, and then all of your passwords for every login are stored inside the password manager.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Another thing I wanted to talk about with you, Nikhil, is so going back to that idea of kind of reactive versus proactive, and we started talking about the proactive stuff, password managers, but also patching software. You mentioned the browser, but all software needs updates, right?
Yes.
I mean, we get Microsoft Office updates weekly, right? And you need to restart things, and updates are pushed out. Security updates are pushed out. And you think about this world of AI. And what does that mean for the IT professionals in the store? Because most dealerships, certainly dealership groups, have an IT person or an IT team that are managing all the PCs in the store, managing all the software. So, what does this all mean in an AI speed related world?
So what AI is being used for nowadays is to find vulnerabilities in software at a speed human beings simply have not seen before. There's newer models, some of which have not been released for safety reasons because they're just so good at building attack software. But at some point, those will be very easily accessible, even not using the very best models, which are still currently being withheld. Second best, third best, still good enough at finding vulnerabilities at a speed we have never found before. So the ability for bad guys and good guys to find problems with software is now at amazing machine speeds. That's going to force patching to be at a speed that we haven't had to do before. It was fine once upon a time to patch in, say, 30 days. I'm talking about a little while ago.
Sure.
That's no longer realistic. Machines are finding the issues too fast. So we should expect an increase in the amount of patching we'll have to do and an increase in how fast we'll have to get the patches deployed.
Yeah.
So there will be a strain on IT teams for sure.
And what does that mean? So, and this might be a silly question, tell me if it is, but there's those days when I'll get the little update that says you need to restart all your Microsoft Office applications. And I'm like, no, I'm in the middle of 14 things and I can't do that right now. And so I ignore it. Or there's those mornings when, I leave my computer on overnight and I got a couple things open and I go to log in the morning and it's shut down overnight. And I'm like, because it had a Windows update, right? Are there implications to how frequent those types of things will happen too? I mean, is it to the point where it's going to interrupt workflows in the business?
So as it stands today, the day we're recording this, there's still the concept in the Microsoft world of Patch Tuesday.
Okay.
They're still releasing monthly. We need to see how that evolves. But at least finding the problems, the software vulnerabilities, that's exploding in speed. And the vendors haven't yet caught up with how fast can we deploy solutions and get them out into our systems. So it's an evolving field, I'll say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. It's interesting to think about though, because you do have those slight interruptions, or I'll call them annoyances. And if that accelerates, boy, it's going to be like MFA was when it first came out, right? It used to be you'd get the prompt for MFA and it's like, oh my goodness, it was so annoying. And in today's world, it's like, man, I'm glad we do this.
Yes.
This makes me feel a lot better.
Yes. We need to get used to very fast, very frequent patches.
Yeah. Okay. No, it'll be interesting to follow that. I want to pick your brain a little bit too, just because I find it pretty fascinating. You mentioned, AI tools that aren't being released because of safety reasons. You're clearly referring to Anthropic's latest model, and they've made it very, very public that they have withheld this model.
Yes.
And their framing was pretty fascinating to me. So I wonder, from your perspective, how much of their framing of, it's for safety, we don't want this getting into the hands of the wrong people. How much of their framing is truly, we don't want this getting into the hands of the wrong people, and how much of it is positioning as we just created the best, LLM that's ever been created, the best AI tool that's ever been created, and we want to get attention for that. And we've been in this cycle for 2 years of like, oh, this one's better. No, this one's better. No, this one's better. And in every release, each one of them is truly better than the next. So I'm curious what your take is on that.
Okay, sure. There's marketing, yes, but it is real that these tools are fantastic at finding software problems. So Anthropic, since you mentioned them specifically, has a project called Glasswing.
Okay.
And they have selectively let companies participate. So they have selected the partners. Microsoft is one of them. Google's one of them. There's several of these partners now. And these partners are seeing the power of the tools. It's not all just made up. It's not all just marketing. Of course, there's the marketing angle, but the capability is real.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting. It just, there's all these different pieces to it. And, I mean, the AI war right now is a real thing. You look at these companies that are out there, and they're all trying to win because each model comes out, and I mean, it's not quite as exponential as it was 12 months ago, just because we're getting to a point where you just can't go that rapidly anymore, or make those big of jumps anymore. But the jumps are still very large when the next model comes out, when the next release comes out.
So I'll give you an example. Opus 4.8 was launched just a few weeks after 4.7, right? Weeks for a version out. It wasn't a version 5, right? It wasn't a whole major version change, but still weeks to launch a new capability. And then just recently they launched Fable. They call it Fable 5. And that is one level down from their top model, again, for safety reasons. But yes, the pace of release is significant.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting stuff. I'm glad you made time to sit down with me. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I had kind of thought about talking about with you, but this conversation's been really good. It's flowed really nicely. What else is on your mind maybe that we haven't talked about, or anything I should have asked you about that I didn't? Anything you want to make sure to talk about?
I don't want to come across as all doom and gloom, because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Right? But there is a competency required to defend against attacks in this world. Dealers should invest in that competency. Investing in knowledge is practically free, and one of the biggest wins they can have. Setting the right culture is huge for them. We talk about the human firewall, right? It's not always just technology. Human beings running with their instincts, making good decisions, not buckling to time pressure, is a massive win for businesses. So invest in the human angle, invest in your security capabilities, and we should come out okay in the robot wars if we do those things.
Yeah, no, that's good. And let's those are two good points. So let's just expand on them just a little bit, double click here. So the first one, investing in the competency, that can take really two forms, right? It can take investing in somebody in the store, and it could be investing in a company like Proton to assist, or both, honestly.
Yes.
But one, the other, or both of them combined is really important today, and it's going to continue to increase in importance as we go forward, right?
Yes, it's an engineering challenge, right? Yep. And I've long told you, Greg, IT and security are different skills, right? They're related, but they're different skills. We solve different problems in the technology space. So relying on the traditional IT guy to expect that person to be able to engineer the solutions needed to deal with modern cybercrime, that's a big ask.
Yeah.
It is a specialization. It should be treated as such.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Okay, so then the other thing you mentioned was knowledge, right, and educating employees. And I can speak from experience at Reynolds. You can probably speak more experience in the dealership world, since you see it every day with Proton. But we have vulnerability kind of penetration testing every day. Every day we get emails to make sure that our associates that they can recognize these kind of spam emails, right?
Yes.
And we do testing that's required on an ongoing basis, where we have to go through a cybersecurity course, and we have to take a test on it. So we're constantly updated. I'm grateful for that, not just from a business perspective, but honestly from a personal perspective too, right? It's almost a gift that the company gives. But those types of things do make a huge difference. So are there other things, I guess, beyond that you see in the dealership world, or other ways to execute on it?
So a lot of this training has been very focused on email.
Yeah.
Right. But we've got to also train for deepfakes. And you can't really rely on the human being to spot a deepfake on a video call. It's almost a coin flip at this point. Are you familiar with the Will Smith spaghetti videos on YouTube? Yeah. So for those who haven't seen this, it's worth looking up. It shows the evolution of video generation from a few years. And if you look at the 2026 version of it, it is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So exposing people to the fact that this type of representation, impersonation, should be considered normal, right? And having your processes work through those situations as well, that training is very critical.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I add? We've talked a lot about fraud, right? The traditional cybercrime that people think about, ransomware, that's what makes the news. That's still happening all the time. But fraud has become so common. in some cases is barely even newsworthy anymore. So you don't read about it as much because it's just a constant, right? That's why I want to focus on fraud in particular. It's very preventable. Dealers have power just through education, good policies. So I want to emphasize that. While ransomware, of course, like I said, is still happening on a daily basis, I want to draw attention in particular to fraud.
That's a great call out, and honestly, a good place to probably land the plane here. It's been a fun conversation. I always learn something when I get to talk with you, when I get to sit down with you. So I hope that everybody listening got a chance to learn something too. But Nikhil, I do appreciate your time. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and I hope this helps our dealers, and then they can use education and good investments to be on the right side of this equation. Thank you, Greg.
Perfect. Thanks. Well, I hope you got a lot out of that conversation with Nikhil Kalani. He's a wealth of knowledge, has tremendous experience, and I really do appreciate him sitting down with me. I learn something every time I get to talk to him. Before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.